Okay, so today we are going to talk about the concept of organization in Workday. So here is the agenda of our today's session. We are going to understand the concept of organization in Workday HCM. We'll also be understanding what is supervisory organization. We have also talked about it a little bit in our last session, but we'll be covering some more details today. Then we'll be talking about different features and characteristics of supervisory organization, how we can create supervisory organization, how we can move people within supervisory organizations, how we can assign different roles, how can we create cost centers, locations, and we'll also be talking a little bit about staffing models. So, organization. So as you can see on the screen, if we, for example, just to understand the concept of organization, so if we just look at this picture and understand. So for example, let's see, these are three, we can say there are three units. We can consider these 6 people divided in 3 units. And for example, let's say this is one department, or maybe this is another unit or department, or this is third one. So we can say these on a broader level, all these people are part of one organization. But let's say if we say that these 2 people belongs to finance department, for example, so we can say this is another organization within the company. We can call it a department, for example. And similarly, let's say this one is, let's say, HR department, or maybe this one is IT department. So these are different, you can say, subtypes of organization. Organization always have a particular purpose. There are workers, there are different costs associated with a particular organization, and usually organizations are divided in business functions. So what's, and then coming to supervisory organization. So supervisory organization, what's the purpose of supervisory organization? Supervisory organization is actually a group. We are grouping people in a particular structure. You can simply say that it's a unit in which we are actually describing who reports to whom. Commonly used, it's the most commonly used organization types. And based on this supervisory organization and based on the structure, we actually assign different roles to these organizations. We can control different accesses to members of that supervisory organizations. Similarly, if we understand the most common types of organization, so for example, company. So let's say ZaranTech is a company. So it is a type of organization. Within ZaranTech, for example, let's say there is a support team. So let's say there is a certain budget allocated to the support team, for example. So we can say ZaranTech is a company and their support is one of the cost center. Then they might have support team in different part of the world. So we can create different regions, and that region is actually another organization type. Sometimes these organizations might overlap with each other, and we'll see in future slides that how that works. So you see, organization, as I mentioned. So you can take example of any organization. For example, over here I mentioned about ZaranTech, but let's say we take an example of Amazon. So Amazon is a US based organization. So on a broader level, the organization or the company is Amazon. Then they might have offices in different countries, so they have simply created regions within the organization. So let's say there is a US region, there may be a UK region, there may be a Netherlands region, or any other region. And then there might be specific costs. So for example, there is a customer success department, let's say, and so there is a specific cost center. There might be an R&D department, that R&D cost center, that could be uh, like that is part of a main organization, but that belongs to a specific cost center. Similarly, then there is a structure of supervisory organization and supervisory. So, for example, let's say region Y. So we say that all of these people who are in region Y are from the US, let's say. And if we see the cost center, so let's say uh, these three people these three people belong to R&D department, and these three people belong to customer success department. So they are US employees and they are allocated in customer success, and then they actually report to a particular manager. So for example, these two people report to a certain manager who might be, under let's say under customer success team, for example. There might be a customer success manager, or there might be someone who has a more broader role, and there is a team defined differently. So these classifications actually sometimes overlap, but they all are part of same organization. What's the purpose why we are actually dividing these people, or dividing the system in different organizations? The purpose is always like there are 2-3 reasons why we are doing it. So uh, first of all, that there is a security thing, so that we can actually define the access level. So who can review what, who can approve what, who can take different decisions in the system, and who should have only read only rights, or who should have for example editing rights, reporting. So coming back to that same example, so for example, if we are taking the example of Amazon, and there is a regional head, for example, so regional head would be interested in actually viewing the report of his or her specific region. There will be a company head, and the company head would be interested in taking the overall look of the organization, overall performance of the organization. So based on how we have structured the system, we can actually set it up. Like we can set up the security, the access level, we can create different reports, and we can based on the access level, the user or the worker can actually view different information in the system. And then the business process. So the roles that are defined for different people, and the organizations that we have set up in Workday, it has an impact on business processes. We'll also be taking a look of it in more detail, but these are the three main reasons why organizations are actually made in Workday. And uh, that's the reason that we whenever a company is actually creating a structure, it has to be done diligently, so that we know once we move further in the process, so we have well defined processes, and we can actually, based on those organizational structures, we can set up all these things. So before I move further, let's just take a look of different organizations. So we are currently in a testing environment. So for example, I am right now logged in as Logan McNeil. So let's just go to her profile. By the way, whenever, even if I am I just have an employee level access, no HR partner or no administrative level access, I will always be able to view my own profile. So now just to give you an understanding of the concept of organizations. So we can always go to employees profile and can see different information that's available in the system. So right now we are focusing on organization. So let's just understand the concept. So you see, these are all the organization types. These organization types can actually vary from company to company. It all depends the structure that company has built in the system. So if we talk about Logan, so Logan is a member of Global Modern Services, which is, you can say, the highest level of organization, which is a company. Then there is another hierarchy set up in the system, which is WP, company hierarchy. Again, we can give any name to these organizations. Some of these organization types are already defined by Workday, and sometimes we can also add level to it based on our organization structure. And every employee that is, or every worker that is added in the system, he or she would have certain organizations. You can say these are the tags that are available in the system for all the employees. So she's part of Global Modern Services company. She's also part of HR services, which is the cost center. Again, I can give it any name. This is based on my naming convention that I have within my organization. There is a location hierarchy also set up. So top level, she is from USA, like Western US. And then she has also been part of North America. And similarly, so there are different location hierarchies or regional hierarchies she is part of. And then she is also part of human resources supervisory organization. So the upper table that you can see, she belongs to all of these supervisory organization. And then she has the responsibility of managing different units or different supervisory organizations. So she is the manager or the leader of all these 41 supervisory organization. By the way, if we talk about like in a practical environment, it's very unlikely that someone is the manager of 41 supervisory organization. But since it's a like it's a shared tenant, shared environment, so different people keep on trying different options here, and that's why it's like showing 41 items. But of course, it all depends. Maybe someone has like so variety of responsibilities under a certain role. So that's always a possibility. System can actually accommodate it, and you can add as many organization as you want. But in this case, it's like there are 41 items, so it means she is manager of these 41 supervisory or 41 organizations. So let's just go a little more, like dig in a little bit more. So let's take a look of this supervisory organization. So she is like she's part of human resources supervisory organization, and there are multiple other members also. So you can see that, let's say Daffy Duck, she is executive assistant. She's based in Francisco. The other information for this particular individual is not added in the system, but we can see that there are 6 people, including Logan, that are part of this specific supervisory organization. And then we can also understand that like there are different subordinate supervisory organizations as well that are created under human resources. uh, One very common or basic tip to try and explore different options of Workday, you will always in I would say for every option in Workday you will see these three buttons written at the end of each option, and this is, we call it action button. So whenever you will click on this action button, you will be able to see all the options that you can actually go to and explore, and that are actually related to that particular field that you are accessing to. So for example, let's say human resource is the name of this supervisory organization, and let's say I want to, for example, uh, change its name. I want to make some edits. So I am making the change. So I'll click OK. And I can, for example, add global modern services. So I'm adding GMS. And let's say I also want to make sure, I also want to add manager's name. So I want to know that who is, whenever I access this supervisory organization, I want manager's name to be available right after that. So I have actually click on this box which is showing include manager or leader name. So I'll click OK. And now you can see that uh, the name has changed. It's just about changing a name. It has no impact on the functionality or any structure, nothing. I am just changing the label of this organization because I want to know that who is the manager of there's a specific supervisory organization. And then of course there are different details associated with each and every supervisory organization. So as I was mentioning that there are different types of supervised organizations. So this is the type that we have selected here, or the type that has been used to create human resources. That was like the higher level, on higher level it was supervisory organization, and then it's division. So let's go back, and I'm going to go back to her profile, and let's take a look, because we are talking about supervisory organizations, so it's important to understand that how is the structure like. So Logan has a team under her, and these are different people, as we have seen just on the other screen. So Daffy Duck, executive assistant. And for example, if you want to check whom she is actually reporting to, so Logan is actually reporting to Joy Banks. So you know, she is, for example, is the manager of human resources. So she is the manager or leader of human resources supervisory organization, and these are the people who are part of human resources supervisory organization. So let's just take a look of her profile as well. So she is chief human resource officer. um, this is a unique employee ID. Anybody who has been hired in the system, whether as a contractor, as a trainee, or any type of employee classification, he or she would always have a unique ID for identification. Then there is a supervisory organization. We have to understand the concept that whenever uh, it's you can simply assume like, even if we are, for a minute, we are not talking about a system, we are talking about a typical organization structure. So if whenever any person is hired or recruited in a particular organization, there is a position that is advertised uh, in that company. So it means before a company would decide to hire anybody, there will be an existence of a company, of course, and of course there will be a certain department in which that position will be uh, announced or created. So it's the same way. Company is so let's just take a look of her organizations as well. So Global Modern Services is a company, and then, for example, if there is a human resource department and there is an opening in human resource department, so human resource department in this particular case, human resources is a supervisory organization, and we can always see what type of organization it is. And as we saw, so these are the different organization that she has management responsibility of. This is the organization that we just renamed. So she is the manager of this supervisory organization. So there is an organization, generally we call company as an organization. There can be a location type of organization, there can be a cost center, and then there can be supervisory, there can be a division as well, there can be a department as well. So there are certain types that are defined by Workday, and for a company structure, if we need to have more classification than what is defined by Workday, then we can add more as well. But generally, if you see, I'll also be explaining that in a while. We have one slide that would more clarify your question. But generally, you can say company, location, cost center, and supervisory. Again, there can be region as well, there can be others as well. It all depends how we want to do it. And wherever you see this hierarchy, it means that there are further classification. So for example, let's say US location. So there is a hierarchy that we have defined. So let's say if we go to this hierarchy, so United States, it's a high level hierarchy, and then we have defined further locations within that hierarchy. So it actually depends on your requirement and how you want to do it. So at the top we have United States, then we have USA, Western US, and then we have these locations defined. You will always see superior organization whenever you will open any type of organization. So superior and subordinate. So over here, US is the top level, then we have USA, Western US, and then we have these locations defined, right? So like this is a simple structure. Whoever, like, these are all the organizations that this individual is part of, and in the second table, this is the list of all the organization that are led by this specific individual. And no matter who that person is, you will always find these details for each and every individual. And we can quickly check it for someone else as well. So let's say we want to check this. We'll go to job, organizations, and so we can see all these details over here as well. If we cannot see the second table on the screen, it means this person is not responsible, is not a manager of any organization. So we can always look for these details. So that's about the concept of organization. And before we move further, I just want to show one more thing. Create supervisory organization. I must know that in which in which structure I want to do it. So for example, I think ABC, this is a setup already created in the system, and I want to create a supervisory organization in this, but for this particular company. And let's say, for example, I want to give it a name of finance, and I am supposed to uh, add a code. I'm right now, I'm just, I want to define here that what type of supervisory organization it is. Let's say I'm saying it's a division. Okay, visibility. So whenever we are creating organization, especially supervisory organization, we have an option that the organization that I am creating, I want it to be available or to be viewed by everyone, or only people who have been assigned a certain role on that organization, or I want that people who are members of that organization, as well as the people who have been assigned a certain role, or I want that role assignees of current workers as well as their superiors. So it all depends if you what type of like access level you want to define here, because it's like it's a public kind of thing and we are not adding anything confidential. So we are going to I'm selecting everyone here, primary location. So let's say I want to add US. So I have this, let's say I want to add UK. I can do that. I want to do India, or whatever whatever location I want to add here, I can do that. And I'll click. Okay, so now the error that we are getting over here, position management enabled. So that's actually relating to the staffing. It means, because as I mentioned that I am using a public community right now, so it means the staffing model is not right now selected, and that's why it is giving error. So these are the two types of staffing models: um, job management enable and position management enable. We are going to talk about it in future sessions. So we can do the same thing in let's say we do it for, okay, so it's not also defined here, but okay. So I actually scroll down and then I click on that, and then I was able to create it. I can repeat that. So we'll simply go to a supervisory organization, and just to reiterate that supervisory organization will always be created for an existing company, a company that is already set up, and we are creating a structure within that company. So let's do it again. So let's say global, AL global. I am AL global HR, for example. I am giving 001. I want to see the manager name assigned. I'm giving department, everyone. Let's say UK. And then over here, I'm getting this. Right now, I'm just selecting one option. I'm not going in details of which one should be selected. There is a whole session for it to understand what's the difference between these two staffing models. So for now, I am creating position management enable and clicking OK. Now this supervisory organization is created. Now I want to assign a manager to this specific supervisory. So let's say I'll go here. AL Global HR. So there is a um, role assign option. Just give me 1 minute. Okay. So you see, there are some default setting already set up in the system. So although I have not assigned any role right now, but Logan is the um, Logan is the hierarchy owner. Now, if for example, there is no um, manager assigned right now, and if I want to assign a specific role, I can go to it. I assign role. Generally, we see a role option here. It's partly, most likely, due to the excess of uh, like right now we are having. But generally, you see role and then you assign a specific role to that supervisory. So this is one supervisory organization that we have created. There is no position right now, but we can always create position as well. So we can create different positions and then we can hire different people under a supervisory organization. To be able to add any person within a supervisory, we have to create a position. So that's a general overview. Now let's go back to our slides. So there are different organizations types. Some of these organizations types are already available in Workday, and there are some that are you can say that a company can add different types. So as I mentioned, supervisory organization, we have already talked about it. There is a matrix organization also. So matrix organization, what's the purpose of matrix organization? So that let's say there is any person or maybe more than one person, and these people have multiple roles in any organization. So a lot of times organizations have one person reporting to two departments or two managers due to their specific roles. So there is generally a dotted line reporting to second one, but we can also set up matrix organization types. And again, it depends what structure you are having within your company, and based on that, you can set up matrix organization. Then there is a retiree organization. What's retiree? So there might be some people who have who are retired from the company, but maybe that company has some for example some benefits or something that are paid to those employees. So for example, there is a pension fund, let's say. So in this type of organization, we actually add those people. So it all again, it depends that if I have that benefit for my retired employees, I can set that organization type. And why I am actually classifying them in a separate organization, it's because again, I can actually create different types of reports based on all of this classification that I am creating in my tenant. So whatever classification I'll create here, I'll be able to actually create different reports based on that information. Similarly, location hierarchy, we have already talked about. Custom organizations. Custom organization is, again, if we have to have some additional classification, which is other than, you can say, business unit, company, business unit, location, and there is another uh, hierarchy level that I want to create for my specific organizational structure. So I can actually classify it under custom organizations. Um, one very good thing about Workday environment is that you can, even if I am, for example, um, classifying it under custom organization, I'll still have a lot of liberty to actually name it as I want. And custom organization is actually for someone who is using the system as an admin, and end user will not have any problem and won't have to get into a lot of all these details. The purpose is just to have another level of hierarchy, or have that structure in place. And again, the example that you see here, so over here we are actually talking about, let's say, if there is any educational organization, so based on the needs, you can create different types of organizations. Similarly, costing organizations, it's all about, like, the hierarchy you are creating, cost related. You want costs to be available in forms of business units, in form of projects. That, for example, let's say there is a huge project that company is working on. Company has allocated different resources from different regions, paying them different like paying them different salaries, giving them different benefits. So they are eligible for certain funds or certain benefits. So I can actually create that structure based on how I'm doing it. It all depends. Again, these three, if you want to take a higher level look, these three are the types that are generally configured in setup, and all others are based on your specific requirements. So company, cost center, and regional hierarchy. Uh, on a higher level, company, and then there is a hierarchy if you want to further divide the company in different units, for example. And payroll organization type, there is a pay group, and you can, of course, you can define different pay groups. Again, for example, there is an executive level pay group. There can be another group, and then you can define different merit plans, different bonus plans, um, and not only define that, and you can actually associate different things based on the type that you have added there. uh, then we have this supervisory organization that we have already talked about. So again, it's a foundation of HCM. The purpose is to define the structure. So the top level manager, who is the manager or the leader of that supervisory, and then there are different members of that supervisory organization. Why we are having the supervisory organization in place? The purpose is that we can create different jobs and positions. We can assign certain compensation elements to that supervisory, and then we can also um, assign different business processes to that supervisory organization. So that's also an example of supervisory organization. So let's say this is a top level, so executive management. That's one example. Member of executive management. Then there is an operations layer. There are different people. So executive management is one supervisory, operations is another supervisory, and then global support center is another supervisory. So there are different positions, there are different people or members of that specific supervisory organization. So you can see this is the open position, and that's how you see that in system, that whenever there is an open position in a certain supervisory organization, you will be able to see that position. Similarly, this is member global support. This is also an open position. So there are right now 2 open positions shown in this particular uh, diagram. We'll also check it in on the tenant directly. So this is again a snapshot of a structure, and it's actually taken uh, from the tenant that I was using. So you see Chief Executive Officer. So Global Modern Services is the company name, and Steve Morgan, he's the Chief Executive Officer. And then under him, there is an executive management group. So that's the name of, you can say, supervisory organization. And then he has certain other supervisory organizations set up. So finance and administration, human resources, IT, operations, sales and marketing. And Joy Banks, she is the manager of this supervisory, and so let's say in this particular example, you can say it can actually be set up in both ways. But if I talk about this particular diagram, for example, so consider human resource for a minute. Consider it as a division or department. I can still create as many supervisory organization under human resource division as I want. Because, for example, let's say human resource is a supervisory, is a top level organization under a certain company. And let's say there is a recruitment team, and a recruitment team is led by person A. Then there is, for example, training team. Training team is led by person B. Similarly, there can be a performance management team, and that is led by person C. Now, all of these three units, training, recruitment, and performance management, these are classified under human resources. So human resources is, for example, if you're calling it, let's say, division, and then there are different supervisories. Person A is the manager of recruitment supervisory, person B is the manager of training supervisory, and person C is the manager of performance management supervisory. And under these supervisories, there can be multiple members of these supervisories. There can be multiple members. So it's a structure. It all depends how big your organization is, how you have structured that. That the purpose of supervisory organization is to define the reporting structure, grouping workers in a particular structure. So there will always be multiple supervisories in any organization. It's impossible that until unless that organization is very small, there will always be multiple supervisory organization, because we are grouping different type of people in that organization. So a supervisory organization can't be single. It will it's a type of organization. It's the most common type of organization that is used in Workday. But there will always be multiple supervisory organization. There won't be one supervisory organization, because as I mentioned that we are actually defining security reports. We are getting different reports, and we are defining business processes. If we are going to, for example, if I am going to have just one supervisory organization, how will I actually define different roles and different business processes for multiple units? So, for example, I have one office. Let's say I have different locations defined, and there are different units. It's not necessary that all the rules and policies that are being followed in a customer success team in US will also be followed in UK. So I have to make some specific classification within the environment to in order to be able to implement different processes on that supervisory. So supervisories will always be multiple. It cannot be one, because supervisory organization actually gives us gives us that option to be able to have a variety of processes implemented in that same environment. Yep. So going back to the slides. So these are the different units, and then there are supervisories. And as I also share that there was, I think, 41,000 something supervisory that she was part of, or so that's the supervisory that was created again. And you can see HR services department, benefits, payroll, recruiting. So these are three different, you can say, sub functions of human resource services department. And these are the three people leading or managing their specific departments. So we are calling a department, but let's say if we are going to take a look of any of these profiles, we'll also see the details there. The supervisory, the overall organization structure. So positions are only created within a supervisory organization. That's the point. Employees must be hired into our supervisory organizations. So whenever yes, we have departments or divisions classified, but positions will always be created in supervisory organizations, and employee will also be hired in supervisory organization. And then we assign different roles to that supervisory. uh, Again, unique business processes can also be assigned to a supervisory. And just to explain it a bit, assignable roles. So there are different types of roles that are available in Workday. Um, for example, there is a compensation administrator role. There is an HR partner role. There is a manager role. There is a manager compensation role. And we would always assign these roles to supervisory organization. And based on that, that person will be able to access different information. So let's just take a look of it. And let's see what are the roles that are assigned. So these are different types of roles. There are, as I mentioned, there are certain roles that are defined by Workday already, but in case we need it, we can also define our own roles for our specific structure. So for example, manager role. So manager role are actually assigned to these two people. Now we also need to understand the concept of inheritance. What's inheritance? So sometimes what happens, let's say that for example, John is a manager of uh, John is a manager of this finance organization. Now let's say Michael is the manager of this supervisory, Adam is the manager of this supervisory, and Jenny is the um, manager of this supervisory. And for a minute, let's assume that budgeting supervisory has no manager assigned to it right now. Maybe the person who was the manager has left the organization. Now, by default, Workday will assign John as the manager of budgeting supervisory. Generally, you will see John and inherited mentioned here. And that's actually telling us that The organization that is above this level has a manager assigned, and budgeting is actually inheriting that. So budgeting supervisory is inheriting the manager through its superior level. So finance, the manager of finance organization is John. And since no manager is assigned to budgeting supervisory, so John has automatically been assigned as a manager. But we'll always see this inherited keyword mentioned there. And until unless a person will be assigned as a manager of this budgeting supervisory, John will be shown as a inherited manager. So this is the concept of inheritance, and this also works in different like in different access levels also. So for example, if I'm going to assign HR partner role to a top level organization, so it will automatically be inherited to uh, other levels because I have actually assigned it to top levels. So that's the concept of inheritance. So supervisory organization can have different subtypes like division or department. You can define each organization type using maintains, supervisory, organization subtypes, task. You can enforce hierarchy of your organization, and as I was mentioning, that it all depends that what type of structure we want to uh, build in the system. So your organization can have a department, can have a team, can have a division, uh, assignable roles. So assignable roles, as I mentioned, that there are different type of roles available in the system that we can assign, and there are different access levels associated with these roles. And we can use these roles to assign different tasks in business processes. Um, Roles can neither be inherited from a superior organization or can either be inherited or can be defaulted. As I mentioned, that if there is a particular organization on which a certain person was assigned a role, but if that person has left the organization, so it can be inherited from the immediate level. Depending on your security, roles can be assigned on an organization using the related action roles. So um, let's just take a look of assignable roles. So these are the different type of roles that are available in the system right now. So there is an administrative assistant role. Let's take a look what it is, what options it's showing. So it's used on the supervisory. Similarly, HR partner role, generally HR people are given this HR partner role. Again, there can be different roles assigned, and based on that, different access levels are defined in the system, who can review what, who can approve what. Then compensation partner, that's is specific to compensation elements. Similarly, cost center manager, there can be a manager, there can be payroll, recruiter, security partner, HR analyst, depending on what sort of information we want a particular role or individual to view, we can assign that role. Let's just take a look of, let's just try and uh, assign some roles and see its impact. So for example, let's say alpha training department. By the way, the thing that I was mentioning, if you want to, for example, hire a particular employee in a specific department or supervisory, I can do that from here. Again, let's take a look if already assigned. So we see there are a couple of roles inherited and are assigned to different people. Let's say so generally security administrator is the role that that has quite a lot of high level access available, and this specific functional like added role assignment is actually administered by security administered group. uh, so let's say it manage all security related information regardless of organization, creating and maintaining Workday accounts, establishing password rules, managing feature permission, security reports, role reports, approval authority for organization and system business processes. So it's a very high level review, high level role, and that's generally uh, assigned to very specific people in any organization. So user base, there are two types of security groups. There is one called user based, and then there is another one called role based. So for example, let's say uh, I have uh, four HR partners in my organization. So I have defined that whenever an HR person is HR partner uh, is actually added in the team, he or she will have these accesses by default. Or if I want to assign any particular uh, any particular role to an individual, then I can also do it like user based through user based security groups. So for example, let's try and do it for someone else, then uh, Logan. So first of all, again, a different employee, let's say um, so start proxy, generally we use it to access any specific user. So for example, if I want to log in as another user in our actual environment, we can use this option and can access as another user. So let's say assignable. So over here, you can see that there are a couple of additional roles defined, and uh, from here we can actually see that, for example, absence partner, that is enabled for supervisory, and it's a supportive user. It's not a leader. It This role doesn't have leadership privileges. This is a supporting role, and it can be actually assigned to any supervisory. So these type of details, depending on the roles that we are having, we can actually have these details. And if we want to, for example, export and download a document and check that what what type of um, what type of details are available in the system, we can always, whatever information we can see here, we can actually export it and take a look like what other details are available. So uh, let's take a look of this absence partner role that can be assigned on a supervisory. And so it can be assigned by, so someone should have a security administrator role assigned to him or her to be able to assign this role. So for example, let's say I am a I am a security administrator. So I have the ability to assign absence partner role to anybody in the organization. It's also showing the number of people who are currently assigned this role. So let's say absence partner is currently assigned to 8 people. Accounting manager similarly enabled for company or company hierarchy, and it's currently assigned to 40 people. So that's just the way, just to understand that how these roles assignments works. So now let's go back to our slides. Role inheritance, I've already explained the concept. Again, if we have not assigned a particular role to any supervisory, it will be inherited from its supervisory level. Again, that's again an example. So as we just saw that Global Modern Services is the top level company, then there was an executive management group, and under that we had sales and marketing, operations, IT, finance and admin, human resources, and then further under human resources we have different classifications. So again, generally HR partner roles, if there are senior people, they'll be assigned HR partner role over here, which means that those people will be able to access the information of everything below that level. But if we are going to assign, for example, Mark Davies is actually assigned with HR partner role, so he will be able to see things below this level but not above this level. So that's how we can actually set up the access levels on in the system. And that's why I mentioned that why the supervisory structure is important, because that's based on that we can actually provide different accesses to different individuals. So Mark Davies would be able to uh, see information in this particular structure only and not above that. He even would not be able to access the information of these 4 units, because he's been assigned on this particular organization. If he's been assigned on all these, then he'll be able to see information on this level, as well as levels that are below uh, these units under a particular hierarchy. So that's the advantage of that. We don't have to assign roles to each and every supervisory. We whatever level we'll choose to provide the access, it will automatically go down, and that specific individual or people who are having a certain role in that organization will be able to access that information. So worker can only be hired in one supervisory organization. A manager of the supervisory organization is hired into the superior supervisory organization to the one that he or she manages. So the same example, she is actually hired in this supervisory human resources, but she is the manager of all these supervisories. So that's the same thing that we that's mentioned in this slide. And then so as you can see here, this is how we assign the roles. So the thing that I was mentioning, there is a role option, and you can actually assign the roles using this roles option. So let's say wealth of knowledge training. Let's just try to access that same supervisory if it uh, exists in the system. Wealth knowledge. So there is a role and then assign roles. So whenever you will try to assign any role or do or make any change in any process, generally Workday will always record the effective date of that. You can even give a future date. For example, if somebody is being given a specific role and let's say I being an HR partner has been informed earlier and I want to make this effective from, let's say, a future date. So I can always go and select a future date. For now, we'll just keep current date. And so over here, you see there are there are two managers already assigned to it. Generally speaking, there is one manager for a particular supervisory, but again, as I mentioned, that this is a public kind of public tenant, so there are different people using it, and so someone can actually assign any role. So these are the different role, and let's say benefits partner, and I can type the person name here, and I'll select whom I want to assign that particular role. So maybe there was someone on a particular role, or there is an open position on a particular role, which was previously, like John was at that position previously, but its position is now open, let's say. So you will see all these options, and you can type the name of that person and then click OK, and that person will be assigned that specific role there. So this is how we assign roles on a particular supervisory organization. So absence partner, administrative assistant, we can always assign different roles. Again, not every user has this like can see these options, because right now the user that I am like using, Logan, has super user accesses, so that's why you can see all sort of options available in there, but generally it's a different case. So we can assign roles from here. I am going to cancel it for now, but I also want to show one more thing. So we see wealth of knowledge, and learning and development is created under wealth of knowledge. So for example, I now want that learning and development department should not come under wealth of knowledge and should be under a different structure, for example. So I'll go to the supervisory, and I'll go to reorganization, and I'll assign superior. I'll click OK, and now I want to, for example, make it part of human resources. So let's say human resources GMS, let's say. So I'll submit it. Now I'll I'll go to human resources, and you can see that I cannot see that subordinate organization over here now, because I have actually classified it under this supervisory. So you see this alpha, wealth of knowledge, and all these are subordinates of human resources GMS. So using reorganization option, you can actually change the structure. So alpha, wealth of knowledge has now come under human resource GMS structure. Previously it was in the other structure. So that this is how we can also do the reorganization, and we can set it up. And now, for example, if I want to take a look, I want to take a look at how the structure looks like. So this is how it looks like. This is human resources GMS, and then there are different managers, different organizations created. So alpha, wealth of knowledge, this is the one that I actually moved from like the wealth of knowledge to human resources GMS. So we are basically moving supervisories, uh, superior organizations. That's how we can actually change the structure. So this is what we have done over here. We can also create a subordinate. So let's say when I started a department, it was one simple finance department. As company grew, we added more subunits, and I want to create more subordinate organization, or subordinates, you can say, units. So I'll go to that specific supervisory, I'll create subordinate, and I can actually have different supervisories within that specific department. So create a subordinate supervisory organization. So let's just go and try that as well. So for example, let's go to this one. Reorganization, create subordinate, belonging and diversity department. Let's say diversity 21. So I have actually defined another department, which is diversity 21. And the same thing that I was telling, that I have not assigned right now, I haven't assigned any specific role to this department. So you see, this is inherited. You can see here that it's showing inherited. If we'll see, it's not going to show us inherited because she has been assigned manager role on this supervisory, but not on this one. But since we haven't assigned any role, so this has been inherited. If we are going to assign a role to the supervisory, then we would be able to see manager's name instead of Tammy's name. So that's simple it is. The next one is create cost center. So let's try this as well. Create cost center. So from this we can create cost center. Again, it will ask us that for which company we want to create the cost center. AL Global, for example. By the way, I think XYZ Motors. So XYZ. Let's see if that organization exists. Let's take this one. And again, following the same process, we are going to fill in the details and click OK, and we'll be able to create cost center. So organization type, effective date. So as I mentioned, we can always give future date as well if some change was effective previously and we have not executed in the system. We can also do it in the past date, but generally it's not recommended to make changes using past date unless you have actually forgotten to execute that. But generally it's always recommended that you either do it from current or future date. Supervisory organization, it's a functional organization having an assigned manager, employees, and support roles. And when we say support roles, so absence partner, for example, is an example of support role. Someone will have a supporting role, there will be a sign who will be the member of that organization, and there will be a manager. A company is a legal entity. We can create a company using create company name. We can also uh, check the company details. Cost center, we can create cost center. Generally it's on department level. And we can also create location hierarchies depending on again on our structure. So as I discussed, one example of USA. So there was top level was USA, then Western US, and then there were different specific locations defined there. So that's this is how these can be structured, and depending on our particular requirement, we can further add different types of organization in the structure. So that's all for today's session.